Well, hey everybody, welcome to the Seeing Ability podcast. We're having a conversation about the world of those living with disabilities. And that means in some cases, we're going to be talking to adults who grew up as that person with the disability. We're going to be talking to parents that are raising them and talking to a variety of people that are supporting this community. It might be folks in nonprofit, it might be folks in education, it might be folks in healthcare. First of all, I know you've got a lot of choices when it comes to listening. So thank you for tuning in to our podcast today. I think you're going to enjoy it because I've got some great ladies with me here today. Janie, Ainsley, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Well, we're all talking about the world of people with disabilities, but we're all just people. So I always like to start off with the Fast Four. Now, the Fast Four is brought to us by my friends at Reliable Tech Help. So for all your tech needs, call them at 502-797-7399. Four simple questions. Number one, I can't say ladies first because we got two ladies, so I guess I'll say mom first. Janie will ask you, what is your favorite food?
Favorite food, probably roast beef Yorkshire pudding.
Okay, there you go. Ainsley, how about you? Favorite food?
Probably jjajangmyeon, which is a Korean noodle dish.
Okay, and there'll be some tie-in to that interest in Korean culture later, you'll hear, I'm sure. Number two, we'll go in reverse order. Ainsley, you first. Favorite music?
K-pop.
Oh, K-pop, I should have known that. Mom?
I don't have a favorite. I love all music.
All music, okay, great. Number three, what is a show that you watch or streaming or YouTube, any kind of thing that you're enjoying now? Start with mom.
What am I watching right now? I'm not really watching much of anything. I don't really have a whole lot of time for continuous TV. I'll often have my TV on in the background as my, I don't know, sound placeholder.
Fantastic. Okay, I love it. Ainsley, what about you? You're pretty busy too, but when you get to watch something, what are you watching?
Yeah, I'm pretty busy because of my clubs. But when I'm having free time, there's this show I love to watch on YouTube. It's also on like TLC. It's called Untold Stories of the ER. So it's like a medical show.
Okay, Untold Stories of the ER. I think I've seen that. Excellent. Okay, last but not least, favorite bucket list destination somewhere in the world you'd love to go but haven't been yet. We'll start with Janie with mom.
Korea, South Korea.
Okay, Ainsley.
Same with mom.
Okay, very good. Well, again, welcome. Great to have you ladies here. I'll start with the topic that is kind of the beginning for a lot of families living in this world. And obviously, this piece is a little bit bigger part for mom than you, Ainsley, because you were just, a baby when it all started out. But tell us about that acceptance that you're going to be on a different path with a kid who faces extra challenges, what that journey was like for you. What are kind of your lessons learned from that you talk to with other young parents?
Get a second opinion and get another opinion and get another opinion. When you first find out that you're going to have a special needs child, it kind of like there's so much information at once that one person will tell you one thing, another person will tell you another thing, and you kind of have to just make your own path because not everybody fits into one category. In Ainsley's case, I was told, she won't survive the week. Then it was, she won't survive the month. Then she won't thrive. She won't be able to go to school. She won't. And then continuous, like all the way through. So you need to make your own path and just go with it, because if you're just put into one little keyhole, you're never gonna, it's never gonna go anywhere.
Fantastic. I love that. I love that, making your own path and getting that second opinion and not always buying into, I guess, what the world will tell you your child can't do.
Right. Yes.
Excellent.
There's a lot of, you won't be able to do that. You can't do that. You shouldn't do that. But how do you know until you're walking that path yourself?
What about the emotional part of it where parents are a little bit overwhelmed with thinking about what's this going to mean for their future? What's it going to be like when they grow up? And they're kind of worried about the 20-year down the road consequences. How do you acknowledge those emotions but move through to deal with today and tomorrow?
Well, you can just work through your emotions. Like it's a lot at first. When you're first told, your child has cerebral palsy, your child has this type of cerebral palsy, your child has this kind of disability, and that's a lot of emotions to work through all at once. So find your people, find your parent groups, find your other, parents and stuff who either are going through it or have gone through it, so that you have somebody to discuss these things with. Because if you're just like keeping it all in yourself, you're gonna be so overwhelmed, and you're not gonna want to do anything except stay at home and say, well, I just have to keep this child in a bubble. But you can't go and explore the world, and you're not alone.
Yeah, that's really good advice. So, in terms of the rest of the world that's kind of learning how to interact with somebody who shows up differently in the world, Ainsley, you've had to live that from a young age with maybe some stares, maybe some questions, maybe some people just not understanding, hey, what's going on with her? What's that been like for you, and how do you approach interacting with people who are maybe a little uncomfortable or awkward around somebody who's different?
Well, in my case, uh, some people like say, "Hey, what's wrong with you?" or "Hey, why are you in this activity when you're in a wheelchair? You shouldn't be um, like this." First, when they want to know my disability, I like to explain if they want to listen, and if they say like you can't do that, you can't do like, oh, say marching band, because I'm in marching band. I always say watch me. Just because I'm in a wheelchair and just because I have a disability does not mean like I'm some weirdo and not a normal person. So I like to spread awareness for that, for like people like me.
I love that. And then what you've probably had this a long time, answered this many, many times, but when the general person out there who maybe doesn't even know about cerebral palsy or doesn't know what that is, how do you describe to people why you're in a chair, like what's going on with you? What's you've probably done it a lot. So what's your short version of explaining your situation to folks?
Um, so when people say, "Why are you in a wheelchair?" my short answer is my legs don't work, or I have a disability that makes my legs not work properly, so I cannot walk.
Yeah, I love that. And so, mom, it's different for you as the parent when people are asking questions or maybe getting those stares when Ainsley was young and you're out and about in the world. What was that like for you, and how did you handle people and their curiosity or their questions or their reaction to showing up differently?
It wasn't so much people who had questions, because they were actually asking and wanting to know. It
Hmm.
was, but people stared, or they would tell their kids, "Don't stare" or "Don't look." And I would always say, "Hi, you can talk to her. Hi,
Yeah,
you can ask her any questions you want." Like I would kind of like make it so that they would feel okay,
right.
asking or feeling okay to say hi, especially kids. That's the one thing is, you have to lead by example. So if you're telling a child it's okay to talk to somebody, it's okay to ask questions, then they're going to ask questions, and that's the only way that they're going to learn.
Yeah, so it sounds like you saw it as an opportunity to kind of do a little outreach and pull people in and
Oh,
make
for
them
sure. Yeah.
make them more comfortable with the idea that just because she has some differences doesn't mean
Yeah.
she's just not a person, just like you.
Right. Yes.
I love that. So we talked a little bit about second opinion, but I know for somebody, especially with the physical challenges, the world of medicine and doctors and diagnosis and things is a big piece of it. Besides second opinion, tell us a little bit more about that part of the journey for you. I guess we didn't even get into like the backstory of Ainsley's diagnosis and things. And what were your learnings as far as relating to doctors?
Well, where we lived was pretty small. There was a kind of a limited number of people who could help us. So we started coming to Louisville, and I think that's what you need to do is just kind of research a little bit more. Ainsley wasn't fully diagnosed until she was almost 2. She was not hitting milestones. She was not, doing all the things that a typical, child or typical, toddler would do. So I just started asking questions. And then I started asking more questions. And then we finally got sent to Louisville, to Dr. Jacks. And Dr. Jacks said, "Hey, do you know about the Kid Center?" So I think the more questions you ask and the more people that you reach, the bigger the possibility, the bigger, your audience is, or, for even audience for in the opposite direction to learn from.
Yeah, I love that. And then connecting to that bigger community, I know that's how we originally met, is at the
Yeah.
center. And talk to me a little bit about getting your child involved in different kind of activities when they're young. You can begin the question, and then Ainsley, I want to know your earliest memories of what it was like with the particular activity that you were involved with at the Kids Center. So starting with you, Mom.
So Ainsley started with the Kid Center when we were first evaluated when she was 1.5, and then she started right after her second birthday. And then our very first activity with the Kid Center was the fashion show. And so we met a ton of people just doing the fashion show, going to, well, at that time it was Macy's, and there was just a plethora of people who were just like us.
Mm.
There were parents with kids in walkers, there were parents with kids in wheelchairs, there was such a huge variety. And I thought, okay, this is a relief. Let's kind of go from there. What kind of activities more can we get involved in? And I never treated Ainsley like, well, you're in a wheelchair, so you can't, that's not something you can do. Very young, she started in cheerleading. She started in cheerleading at the Kids Center, and then she went on to cheer in elementary school. And people have said, well, how can a child in a wheelchair cheer exactly the same way as a typical child?
Yeah.
She has a pretty big voice. She can do the movements exactly the same. So you can't just limit your child to, well, I don't know if they can do that activity because they have XYZ. Your kids can do anything. It just takes, there might just be a little bit of a workaround, but special needs kids can do anything that a typical child can do.
So Ainsley, tell us a little bit about cheerleading, your earliest memories. What did you like about it? What was it like for you in terms of how that helped your self-esteem, your outlook on life, and then even just connecting to other people like your teammates and your friends you made? Tell us a little bit about your cheering days.
Well, I remember cheerleading like very vividly because I had a big seizure, so I don't remember much. So what I do remember is we used to like have Christmas parties, like of cheer, and I remember this one time where we were at a cheer thing. My mom told me about this, so that's how I remember. We were at a cheer thing, and Miss Julie is very scared of the camera, so she said, "Mom, go be on camera." So my mom was forced on camera.
Very nice. Mom got forced on camera. So you're remembering. It sounds like those times with the team were just as important as the activity itself.
Yes, because we used to go to like, was it basketball games? Mm-hmm. Basketball games and stuff.
Yeah, Bullet East.
Bullet East.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, with the Bullet East and cheering at the high school basketball games with the big crowds and things. And for you, Mom, what was that like? What changes did you see in her? And then again, what was it like for you to be a cheer mom? Just connect with that other community of parents whose kids were also out there on the court.
Well, when we went to cheer competitions, we were often the only group that had, kids. We had a couple of kids in some walkers and a couple in wheelchairs, and we were often the only group that had those kids. So we would get, stares or whispers, and you just kind of go along and, do your thing. And then they get on the floor, and everyone's like, okay, wait, these kids know how to cheer and they can do their little routines. And so it was kind of, rewarding to see the reaction from other groups to see like, okay, wow, okay, these kids actually can do the same thing that we're doing, just in a little bit of a different way. And doing the cheer thing and going to competitions and toting stuff around and toting bags around wheelchairs and stuff, like, yeah, that was a whole experience. But you get to be with, I don't like using the word your people because everybody is our people, but you get to be with people who are going through the same scenario that you're going through.
Yeah, I love that. I love that change in the reactions of what people thought was possible, and seeing that group as a little different, and realizing, no, they're actually a lot more like us. They're cheerleaders, right? They're just people. They might show up in a different package, but they have, and I might be, because of that package, initially focused on what my perception is they can't do. But once I see their abilities, I'm more focused on what they bring to the table, not what I thought they didn't bring.
Right.
That's pretty amazing. All right, that's a good segue to us talking about the world of expectations, which I want to get to next. But first, let's take a short break. When you have a kid who is different, all your ducks need to be in a row, especially your money. Cam Howell with Primerica knows the joys and the challenges as he and his wife raise their medically fragile son, Brooks. Cam brings over 13 years of experience to his clients and helps them be protected, have a plan for the future, reduce debt, and connect to resources. Get your financial house in order so that you can enjoy every moment with your child. Reach out to Cam at 502-803-5075. And now back to the show. All right, well, talking about the cheer days and being a cheerleader or a cheer mom is a really good segue to this topic that often is talked about with parents in this world, and that's this area of expectations. And how much do you step in and help your kid? How much do you step back and let them learn through trial and error and failure? And that's not a balancing act that's unique to parents of kids with some kind of differing ability. All parents have that balancing act, right? You'll have the parent that's referred to as the helicopter parent, who's there all the time, kind of doing everything for their kid. And then the other one who's sort of like, throw them in the deep end and they'll learn how to swim. You've got that whole spectrum. And then you add on top of it this layer of extra challenges that kids with differing abilities are facing. So I guess I'll start with you, Janie, Mom. You talked a little bit about like what other people thought was possible. Tell us about did you have any kind of evolution? Are you a self-confessed early helicopter mom, or was that not you early on as you saw Ainsley working to do things, maybe at times struggling to do things? What was your journey with finding that balance of expectation?
I've kind of never been like, oh my gosh, don't do that. You shouldn't do that. I was more of the, you sink or swim kind of parent, because just because you're in a wheelchair, you're still a little girl and you're still learning. And that's where, I say, get another opinion, and get another opinion. Because if you just listen to, the first three people who say, well, she's never going to be able to do that. Why not? I want to know why. Why are you telling me that she's not going to be able to do that? And I'm going to ask the next person, why do you think that she can't do that? Do you think she can't do that because she's in a wheelchair? Because she's very determined. And if anybody who has spent 5 minutes with Ainsley knows, she's very determined. And so I just kind of said, okay, show me what you can do. If this is what you want to do, these are the things that you have to work towards to get to that thing that you want to do. But if you kind of hold your child back and say, well, they have a disability, or, I'm afraid, what if they fail? What if they fail? How are they going to learn? You have to let your child fail, and you have to let them grow through the process of, maybe it didn't work the first time. Maybe it didn't work the fourth or fifth time, but that sixth time, that's when they're going to be like, I got it. and they are going to be so proud, and you are going to be so proud, because that is something that they worked hard to accomplish. So you have to let your kids go and explore.
I love that. So Ainsley, folks that are listening, they're just meeting you. They haven't had a chance to read. Your mom shared with me an essay you wrote, I believe maybe a college entrance essay, a little bit about this theme. So talk to us about your philosophy about what the world thinks you can and can't do, and how you reacted to that, even when you were younger, how you do today.
Okay, so first of all, I wrote that essay in my relationships class.
Okay.
So basically, my essay is about like my interests in language and being the first uh, wheelchair kid in the band, because not very many people think that a wheelchair person like me, as a 17-year-old girl, a senior in high school, can do band. At first, when I said, "Hey, I want to join DuPont Manual's marching band," there people that I didn't know very well, and also my teachers were like, "No, you can't do that. They won't allow you. You can't march." And so I sat down with the White Pass assistant principal and the band director at the time, and they said, "Why aren't you not allowed? Of course you can be allowed." So when they said to me the bajillionth, like a lot of times, "No, you can't do that," my words were, "Watch me." And also, like, with the language stuff, most people think like that cerebral palsy is like you can't speak. No, you can't say certain things, but it depends on what disability you have, like type of cerebral palsy you have. And in my case, I have the type where I can speak, and so I learned my passion for languages when I was in middle school, because we had a language class where you can choose a language that you want. So my passion for languages started with like the East Asian continents. So like I learned that, and I just learned it over COVID, and it's followed
Aha.
from there.
So what languages are you learning or have learned, or besides English, what else do you speak?
Korean, Thai. I'm learning French in school, so I speak French like decently. I speak Chinese, but I'm not good. Yeah. I speak decent Spanish because I have a friend, like two friends that speak Spanish, uh, and some other languages. Uh, it's called a polyglot. It's actually 1% of the population. It's very very rare. Um, a polyglot means that you speak a bunch of languages, but it's like bits and pieces.
Gotcha. This might explain your love of K-pop and you're wanting to go to South Korea as your destination, correct?
Correct.
I love that. And then you talked about being the first person who's in a chair to be in the marching band there at your high school. So how many years have you been in the band, and what has that experience been like for you, number one, but also what about your other bandmates, the people who maybe they had not been around somebody who was differently abled? How has it affected you? How have you seen it affect them?
Well, mainly like for this year, it's been hectic since we just got like a new band director in August. Uh, so things have changed a lot, but not very many people like discriminate against me. But there has been some instances where there was
Mm-hmm.
people who said something, mainly freshmen in my junior year.
Mm-hmm.
Like somebody said, like, "Why are you in a wheelchair? Beep you!" I'm
Right.
saying bad words to me, and my friends, my Bobby peers, um, from the drum line, because I am in the drum line and in the friend ensemble, they they said, like, no, don't treat her like that. She's just like you. You just don't understand what it's like, um, to be like me. And you just don't know what to expect. Like some people may stare and say something, but I like to spread awareness. And there's since we're in the front ensemble, uh, we got to like tote instruments around and follow the trailer.
Yeah. I love the idea of the other people in the drum line kind of sticking up and for you and being at your defense. That so Mom, how have you seen being around the teachers, the administration, the other parents over the years that she's been in band? How has that changed perceptions or changed the community?
I mean, at first there were a few that, thought that she might be getting special treatment or, that she was excluded or, exempt from certain things. But actually it was quite the opposite. I kind of pushed her in and I said, you have to go and do what everybody else is doing. Um, there were some challenges. Obviously, JCPS transportation is not always guaranteed with a lot of things. So for the 4 years, there's been no accessible bus for the band. So I've driven to every single competition, every single game, every single anything that we have had to do with the band. I have, kind of just taken her and you just learn to adapt. There were a few instances where people were not really very nice to her. They thought, well, why are you here? Why do we have to carry your drum onto the field for you, kind of thing. um
Mhm.
but for the most part the kids are very welcoming to her, especially from freshman to junior year. She had an amazing group of kids. And then there's, a good handful of kids this year who make sure that she's, kept in the loop and she's not left out. And, but, in any case, whether you are an able-bodied child or you are you know, a child with different abilities, you're going to have a group of people, parents or kids, who are not going to be so great, no matter
Right.
what group that you're in. Um, and that's just how unfortunately it goes, is that there's just going to be not nice people out there, but there also is, on the other hand, is going to be incredible, wonderful people out there.
Welcome to high school, right?
Yeah. Welcome to life.
Right. Welcome to life. And that's a good topic, Ainsley. I know we were talking before we started the podcast about your thoughts and insights on the idea that just thinking about high schools, thinking about even after high school, colleges and stuff for people, probably years ago, there were perceptions of the options that were available for people in their education based on the fact that they had a disability of some type. And I know you talked to me about how your philosophy on what is possible for kids. So talk to us a little bit about kids today growing up and what your feelings are as far as like their choices for education. Maybe starting with you, Mom, if you want to add anything. Ainsley.
Um, hold on, I'm thinking. um, like back then, like the education system was very, you know, not open minded. But kids today, I've seen parents like enroll them in clubs, or they were like, "Hey, I'm gonna join this," and they say, "Okay," and like for me, for my school being a magnet school, um, it and I'm in mainstream classes, so um, so it's been tough, but it's also been a like a rather good experience as well. Um,
Mhm.
so trying to think of what else to say. Uh,
And you've got a pretty long resume as it goes from your college. So tell folks what are all the different things you're involved with? I know there's some clubs. There's obviously marching band.
okay, so I'm in French club. I'm the president of the multicultural fair committee, as well as the French club committee itself, and I'm also in the honor society for French club. Um, so I'm really involved in that. I am also part of the esports video game team, um, playing Mario Kart. I'm planning to join the Splatoon team as well for this year. I'm also in the uh, Asian student community club, um, and, and of course marching band.
And of course, marching band. And no wonder mom's not watching much reality TV if she's driving to all those games and all those competitions and those practices. And I think I might have heard a rumor that you get some pretty decent grades. What's your GPA these days?
My GPA is a 3.89 to a 4.0.
Pretty darn impressive. I love that. Okay, so let me ask you guys what I ask all my guests, kind of as a summary to this whole thing. And we have a lot of other topics, but I intentionally try to keep my episodes a little on the brief side because people are driving to competitions and games and they can't listen to hour-long podcasts. So first of all, thank you, ladies, for being here. If we were to bring the two of you to an audience, let's say we had a children's hospital, they were bringing in a guest speaker series for parents who've gone through their hospital, and it's obvious their kids are going to face some kind of different path. They got a variety of different disabilities, not limited to cerebral palsy. In this case, it could be cognitive, could be physical, lots of different things. And most of them are parents whose kids are under the age of 10 still. And the topic is, what advice would you give to parents on raising a happy, successful adult now that you're 17, soon to be 18-year-old senior in high school? We'll start with you, Ainsley, and then mom can wrap it up. What advice would you give if you're up at that podium? Your keys to success for raising a great kid who's on a different path. Ainsley?
So, um, my advice that I would give to parents is when you um, when you get that first diagnosis, don't treat that as, oh, my child is going to die soon, or not going to thrive. You have to wait and see what um the future holds, and like you have to like enroll them into a good school that has like an IEP, or mainstream classes, because your kid might be very, very smart. You never know. And just make sure that you don't keep your child in a bubble and just don't keep them at home. Expose them to the world.
Hmm, I love that. Okay, mom, what are your keys to success?
Let your kid be a kid.
Hmm.
Plain and simple. Let your kid be a kid and let them find their own path, because you can't control or you can't dictate the future, and you don't know what's going to happen, 2 months, 3 years, 5 years down the road. Anything is possible.
I love that. So Ainsley, senior in high school, I think from your mom, there's some letters going out, some offers. You're looking at lots of different colleges. What are you hoping to do in your next chapter post high school?
I want to continue marching band, but my major in college is linguistics and anthropology because I want to become a ESL teacher and teach kids who don't speak English from different countries. I want to teach them English.
Fantastic. And I have a feeling you're going to be pretty good at that, pretty passionate about it.
Yes.
Well, again, ladies, thank you so much for being here today. And for those of you listening, thank you for tuning in. This is a conversation that we hope every time you listen, you're learning something new. You're getting that little burst of motivation, inspiration. I know I'm jacked up after talking to these ladies today. And then we hope this becomes part of your community. I think Janie talked earlier about finding your people and kind of building that village. And listening to this podcast, we want it to just be another layer of your village. Because of that, we need your help. We're a bit of a best kept secret. We want you to share this with those other parents who are traveling this path, with those special ed teachers, those therapists, those doctors like Dr. Jackson, those places like the Kids Center that around the country that don't know about this podcast. Let them know, have them offer it to their community so it can be part of their village. And then we're looking for future guests. We want great mom-daughter combos like the two you see here today that can tell their stories. We want to hear nonprofits that are doing great work because I do 2 episodes a month right now. One of them is an individual or a family like today. The other is a nonprofit doing great work. So anywhere around the country, maybe you've got a nephew involved in a camp out on the West Coast, or you've got someone who's a teacher down south. We'd love your ideas and connections for future guests. And we want to grow our audience. So please go to our Facebook page. If you haven't, follow that page. Like this episode, share it with anybody that could benefit. I know they're going to love hearing from both Ainsley and her mom, Janie. So ladies, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And everybody else, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.